2022, new year, new me. Hashtag new hair, who's this? Great, another year has gone past, and I think a lot of people feel guilty at this point. What have I done last year? Oh, it's a great time to start habits. Let me go to the gym, and then 7 days later, you're back in bed at 7 a.m. This is what happens, right, at the beginning of the year. But I'm going to talk you through, maybe, kind of show you how I set my goals, why I set them, to kind of give you some inspiration, firstly, on how you can set yours. Secondly, on, what I'm doing, so you can hold me accountable. Why not? Let's have a public accountability here. And three, kind of show you, by showing you how I set them, allowing you to maybe create your own. Because a lot of people say, yeah, I want 100 properties in a year, and if I don't hit it and I get 4, then I've still done more than I would have done anyway. And it's like, well, okay, why don't we just set more realistic goals from the start? So for me, I've always struggled with, well, here's a huge goal, here's realism, where do we meet in the middle? And so in this video, now look, before you go anywhere, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and just leave a comment, say hello. I'm going to talk to you today about how to set your goals for 2022. So welcome everyone to the TED Talks YouTube channel and podcast. Let's get into it. So how do I set goals? Okay, so for me, people like to set 10-year goals, 5-year and 3-year goals. And you know what? I love people who do that because I can't do that. It just doesn't work with me. It doesn't work with my flexibility, where I want to be or how I want to live life. Now, people who set these goals, I love working with them as mentees because it's like, well, here's your 10-year goal, here's your 3, here's your 1. Okay, I know what we're really aiming for here. But what we're kind of aiming for now, let's make a plan to get there and how that's going to then help you multiply to get to here. And I think for people, it does help kind of seek clarity on, well, what's the bigger picture? What are we doing? I just prefer to do it year by year. It just makes sense for me. Maybe because I'm a bit fickle and in a year, I might say, property, boring, I'm on to something else. That might happen. I think it will happen 100%. So firstly, and this is actually a hidden lesson here, I set goals that match my personality and where I want to be and how I'm going to get there. I don't, in 3 years' time, what are my goals? I have a rough idea, but I'm not fussed because I'm doing it year by year. I like to do things in a kind of contained form. And like I said, things change, my mind changes. I want 7 more properties. I could get to 3 and be like, I'm all right here, Like it's kind of it's a real fight between the bull, the capitalist, make money, need money bull, and the stoic philosopher who says, just chill out and walk and look at birds. This is what it is. You have to understand your own battle and set your goals according to that. So for me, I look at, right, at the end of the year, where do I want to be? I've got 12 months to do this, right? I've got all these quarters, I've got, various things, kind of time markers, throughout the year. I've got 12 months. Okay, how am I going to do this? For me, I suppose I look at the past and say, well, if I bought 15 properties in my first 9 months, in 12 months, I could probably do 20, But then I look at that and say, I don't want to, but it helps me think, well, that's what's possible. I then look at the property market and then I say, yeah, that is possible, but do I want to put in the work? Do I want to, have slightly different deals perhaps to hit those kind of targets? The answer is no. I'm not getting out there. I've got waterproof shoes now, people, so I can, but I'm not getting out there and doing 50, 60, 100 viewings. It's not happening. This year, I'm going to do less than 50 viewings. Like simple as that, fact. I probably won't even get near to that. But that's what works for me, and that's what suits me, right? If you're just starting out, you need to be thinking about, well, if I want, 12 properties in my first year, okay, well, let's start at 12. That's kind of 1 a month. It doesn't happen like that, but it's 1 a month. Okay, well, how much do I need in deposits for this amount? How much do I need for the refurb, for stamp duty, for fees? Okay, fine. How am I going to get that? Because I got 40 grand, but I need 750,000, which is maybe something like what your number might be. How do I get to that? Well, that's what you need to think about, and that's what you need to plan as part of these goals. And as you're going through and looking at all these things, this also allows you to set monthly, weekly, daily KPIs, which are key performance indicators. Right, today I need to do 4 agent calls. This week, I need 20 viewings. Because then at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, you've done the requisite amount of work to get the result that you're after. That's how you kind of need to be looking at things. You know what they say, what's measured can be improved, something along those lines, some buzz line. Someone put it in the comments. If you're not measuring your progress, how do you know what to improve? I don't think you do, because you're like, yeah, so I did four viewings. Or was it 3? And I've had, how many people have you spoke to about investor finance? I think it was, a couple there, and then last week it was maybe, and then what you want to be saying to yourself is, 4 last week, 3 before, none the week before, this is why, and this is why, that's what you want. So I suppose with goal setting, again, it has to match you. You may not be as rigid as that, but I think you have to measure things. If you're not measuring them, you can't improve them, you can't track them, and data is incredible, right? Data shows you a lot about a lot. We use data, everything we use uses data. So use it. Let's talk about my goals. So 2022, I've been meaning to do this podcast, this YouTube for so long. I have fitness goals, I have health goals, I have social media podcast goals, but I suppose the most important, well, probably not the most important, actually the health one is the most important, but the one that will take the most time and sits as a priority are the business goals. The easy ones, straightforward ones for property. So I've got 12 properties in the portfolio, 11 are buy-to-lets, the last one is a service accommodation. I'm gonna convert one of mine into an SA, so I'll have 2 service accommodations, 10 buy-to-lets. The cash flow is enough, financially free, whatever you want to call it. I want to add 6 more units to this portfolio this year. 6, why? Because 6 times sort of £300 a month is a nice sort of upgrade in the cash flow. I don't want to buy 6 individual buy-to-lets. I want to get 6 in one unit. I want a freehold block. I want a block of flats. I want something. Okay? That is what I'm doing. Look, will I buy 6 individual buy-to-lets? Yes. But I really, really don't want to. My preference is for flats of some kind or some sort of multi-unit development, conversion, whatever it is. It just makes sense. And there's some nice things you can do with title splits. I've got a podcast on that. And freeholds and leaseholds and things like that. A bit more work, a bit more time. But if I can do it in one, also, I will buy a portfolio. If I can buy a portfolio, add value, even if I have to leave some money in, so my flips come in from last year, they will cover some of the money left in if needs be. And I suppose I've changed in that element that I'm happy to leave in a little bit more money because I'm using investor funds, but now there's more cash coming in from flips. It makes sense to reinvest some of it back into property and the rest of it back into NFTs and all sorts of other funky stuff that I'm doing. So that's the first one. 6 more buy-to-let units. The second one is £150,000 in flip profit. You might think that's not a lot, Tej. Oh, you kind of did that last year. Yeah, combined with all my other goals and some other non-property goals, which are a slightly higher priority, and the fact that I'm not going to leave my house to find these deals and not really going to manage them, and they're going to be pretty hands-off, which is why I've set it there. Now this is a minimum, by the way. Last year, 2 of my flips got pretty close to that together. So I know I've got to do 2 or 3 in order to get to that number. For me, that's a minimum. It's like, here's the minimum speed limit. It's 150K. Why have I set these, by the way? It's kind of based on what I need to live, what I need to pay for a deposit on a residential and to pay that back down for, a lot of just life, really, and also investing. I've got another video on where I invest and how I invest. But putting a decent chunk into stocks and shares, into the ISAs, into the pension, I'm kind of really focusing on that long-term thing right now. And that's why I'm looking at flips. I also like flips. We're in a hot market. People are overpaying. I am still finding deals, although I am not being, as kind of aggressive as I was before. That's ramping up now. Those are the main property goals. Aside from that, I do want to write, 2 more books this year. These are very loose goals. If I don't write the 2 books, I'm really not fussed. They're there as if we can get these in, if we can get 1 at the minimum, I'm happy with that. Now, the real goal is actually to buy 2 businesses. So I'm working with my friend D. Ludlow, who you might be familiar with. I've been on his channel, he's been on mine. He sponsors the property event, so make sure you come along, second Thursday of every month. Now, he mentors in crypto, wealth, and buying businesses. So we are looking at buying 2 MOT car garages. Now, the reason for this is purely passion. I love cars, I like the model, and I also like how antiquated and how old school the model is. Most garages, you walk in, you're a bit uncomfortable, you don't know how much it costs, everything's a bit dirty, they give you a car back with, there's so much that can change in this model that just hasn't, it's a bit like property, there's so much old school crap, it's so magnolia. But I know I can come in with social media, which is how you're watching me and how you know me, and interior design, everything I've kind of done in property, and transform these businesses. So I'm looking at, I was gonna start the businesses up, but cost of snap-on tools, cost of ramps, it's just pointless. I'm gonna find someone who's retiring, find someone who doesn't want their business anymore, buy it off them. There are ways of doing this sort of no money down, whatever, I'm prepared for either way, and run those, and when I say run, I'm gonna be the sort of chairman, and the kind of, director in that sense, but I won't be in there every day. I'm definitely not gonna be underneath a car. These hands are too soft for that. As much as I have fixed some bits, this is purely about how can I get this, improve it, and make it better. So, the MOT car garage is something I'm super, super interested in, always have been, but I think now is the right time because the portfolio's there. I've kind of got a hands-off way of doing property moving forward. I think it's time to kind of explore this other avenue and diversify some of that cash flow. And while I'm searching for these, there'll potentially be some property development opportunities because some of these places will have land or will have planning. In fact, I know of a couple that have planning, or I will be able to get planning on. So, there's always a little property angle somewhere in some of these things that I'm doing. So those are my main goals for 2022, and I hope you can keep me accountable for them. Other than that, there's fitness goals, which, I'll put in the show notes for me of how much I want to bench and squat and deadlift. Various injuries later. Those are pretty strict goals. Body fat goals as well. These are things that are kind of non-negotiable. It's not like the book where I'm like, it'll happen. I'm like, no, this is happening this year. Like, I'm done, it's happening, end of. I've also got then social media goals, like to grow my following, to perhaps do some more kind of sponsored work with brands I really like, to grow the property event. You heard it here first, people, but we are looking for people to franchise out the event. So I know we're just started, but we're getting together packs and details and everything. So if you want to start a networking event anywhere in the country, I'm looking at Birmingham first because I like Birmingham. Get in touch with us. That's one of the goals. To ensure that the event is sold out every single time is one of the goals. You might look at these goals and say, oh, but Grant Cardone says to 10 extra girls and all this stuff. And I get it, but mine just has a real hint of realism because at least the way my mind works is if I said, instead of 6 units, I want to get 60. It would just irritate me because I'd look at it and say, actually, I don't want 60. Like, I'm good. I would also look at it and say, yeah, I can do this. So sometimes you want to 10 extra goals and go big and, aim for the stars. So if you fall, you land on the clouds. But sometimes you just want to be realistic and say, well, what can I actually do? In all of this, by the way, I'm going to need a couple of mil just to do any of this stuff, right? The property stuff, the flips, but maybe a bit less than a couple mil. So if you're looking to invest, talk to me. But see, I haven't really put a goal in for raising money or any, because and none of my goals are dependent on that because I know I'll raise the money. If I've got a deal, one of you is going to fund it. It's as simple as that. And I think with these goals, I think the biggest goal really in all of this is to be content. It's to be, I don't know if happy is the right word. I think happiness, you're always on a journey to it. But to be content and to be present is one of the most important things out of all of these. And I don't need to write that down because it's a given. If we talk about kind of sticking to these habits, for me, there's a difference, and this is a whole new video, but I'll briefly cover it here. I've got some big goals here for me anyway, right? But I've also made them so that I can balance my life with my life. A few kind of ways to stick to new habits. Sometimes you have to force yourself. Mel Robbins, I think it's the 5-second or 3-second rule. You're in bed, it's cold, it's dark, as it literally is every morning now in this country. If you're in Dubai, obviously, live your life. And you want to go gym at 6 a.m. I'm tired just talking about it. I'm just tired talking about this. This is me this morning. Your alarm goes off. You're either going to say, oh, snooze it, back to bed. Yeah, I'll go tomorrow. Or you're going to say, 3, 2, 1, up. Chuck the sheets off, get out of bed. Do things, little tricks like that. Put your phone halfway across the room. Use the light feature so it kind of lights up the room before you wake up. Use these little tips and tricks to force your body into creating this discipline and this motivation. You want to go to the gym every day. Okay, well, maybe have a reward, not a cake. That negates the whole point of it. But have a reward because of that. right? Even have a simple spreadsheet, and every time you go, tick it off, right? You're gonna do 20 viewings a week, same thing, tick it off. There's something competitive, there's something game theory about just ticking off a spreadsheet. I love it. It makes me focus so much. You've got the Pomodoro timer, for example. If you need to, go listen to Eric Thomas and David Goggins, you know, how they ran 100 miles with 2 broken feet and all that motivational American crap. That helps you, do it, right? But in order to stick to these habits, you need what, at least 21 days, then like 90 days for them to be fully ingrained in you. You're not gonna wanna do these things. Who the hell wants to do 20 viewings a week? No one, really deep down you don't. You want the property and the cash flow. So in order to stick to these habits, you know, do things that force you into doing them, but also, as much as you don't want to do them, make sure you want to do some element of them. Whether that's you want the result, whether that's, you know, you want the feeling, whatever it is, you have to kind of want some element of it, or you have to at least see the benefit of eating 5 fruit and veg a day, you know, of exercising, of buying 2 businesses, whatever it is, right? And I'll do another podcast actually on motivation versus discipline, because me and James, we always talk about this, and there is always a constant kind of fight. And I'm reading a book, I think it's called Winner by Tim Grover. He coached Kobe and MJ and a few others, and he talks about this, and it's something, you know, totally, you know, it's kind of a new thing sometimes if you haven't discovered the difference between motivation and discipline. But look, I'm gonna kind of round off this video and this podcast by saying those are my goals. I will copy them into the show notes, into the YouTube description here, so that, you know, you can hold me accountable and you can maybe use them to maybe help form your own goals. And just remember, I've given you 4 or 5 goals here. Then there's plenty of others in terms of social media, fitness, things like that are kind of individual goals. You have to make sure you can do them all, you know, because if I said, right, I want £1 million in flip profit, which is maybe going to be 10 flips if I'm just doing normal ones or more, and I want all this other stuff, it ain't going to work. So make sure the goals are compatible with you, make sure they're compatible with each other, and go get it.